7:42 p.m., September 12. Exactly 14 hours before the memorial exhibition of Queen Elizabeth II would open, Zara Tyndall unexpectedly became the silent center of a gathering storm inside Buckingham Palace. She stood in the long, marble-lined gallery, where warm golden lights glowed against centuries-old portraits, making every painted gaze feel alive and watchful. As the late Queen's closest granddaughter, Zara did not walk these halls as a mere attendee. She moved like the final protector of Elizabeth's legacy. Curators, security chiefs, longtime aides, all sensed it. Every step she took carried an unspoken vow of loyalty. But tonight, Zara felt something else. A disturbance. A fracture. A wrongness spreading beneath the polished surface of royal routine. A last-minute change to the display schedule. A temporary vault sealed without notice. 2 security briefings suddenly rescheduled without explanation. Individually, they were trivial. Together, they painted a warning subtle but unmistakable. Walking toward the east corridor, once her mother's domain, Zara heard it. A low, deliberate whisper, too soft for staff chatter, too sharp for casual conversation. She froze. A thin chill rippled down her spine. This area should have been completely locked down. She stepped behind a stone column, breath controlled, eyes narrowing. The palace fell into a tense hush, as if its very walls were holding their breath beside her. Then it happened. A sentence drifted from the shadows, slicing through the silence like a blade. Tonight, we make the switch. 4 simple words, but enough to ignite the first spark of a betrayal far bigger than anyone imagined. Zara, alone, unseen, and the only witness, knew instantly. There was no turning back. The whispers didn't stop. They grew sharper, more urgent, like fragments of a plot slicing through the stillness. Zara held her breath, leaning just enough to catch the next line without revealing herself. A second voice, lower, tense. "Mother, are you sure? These are the Queen's pieces." The word mother landed like a hammer blow. Zara's pulse spiked. There was only one person Tom Parker Bowles would call mother inside these walls. Camilla. The Queen consort. The woman who now stood where her grandmother once stood. Zara's jaw tightened. She edged closer, silent as a shadow, letting the outlines of the conversation fall into place. Camilla's voice returned cold, controlled, unmistakably calculating. "It must be tonight. Before the curators finish their final checks, my collection goes in, Elizabeth's goes out. By the time anyone realizes, the world will already be praising my contributions." Zara felt her stomach drop. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't a misplaced item or a temporary rearrangement. This was premeditated desecration. A deliberate rewriting of history. The Queen consort wasn't seeking attention. She was seeking ownership over the legacy that wasn't hers. Tom hesitated again. "If we're caught, we won't be," Camilla snapped. "Not if you follow the plan. The new security shifts are already approved. No one loyal to Elizabeth will be near the vaults tonight." In 42. Zara closed her eyes for a brief, burning second. So that was why the schedules had shifted. Why the briefings were moved. Why the vault had been sealed. It was all part of a carefully engineered betrayal. The gallery lights flickered faintly, a reminder that time was slipping. Zara stepped back into the shadows, heart steady, breath even. The weight of what she'd heard pressed against her chest like cold stone. She had uncovered the truth, but the truth alone was not enough. Now, she had to stop it. Zara didn't waste a second. The moment she slipped away from the shadowed alcove, the palace transformed in her mind from a ceremonial fortress into a battlefield of whispers. Every corridor, every guard rotation, every secured door now carried hidden meaning. Camilla had built her plot like a spider weaving threads through marble and tradition. But Zara intended to cut every single one. She moved quickly toward the West Wing, where only a handful of the old guard still held posts, men and women who had served Elizabeth II for decades, loyal not to crowns but to the woman who once wore one. When Zara entered the dim security room, no explanation was needed. They saw it in her eyes, urgency sharpened into steel. "Legacy protocol," she said quietly. 3 words, but they knew what it meant. Within minutes, Zara had them working silently, installing a network of microsensors, heat detectors under velvet-lined displays, pressure triggers hidden beneath marble seams, and micro-cameras tucked into the shadow lines of the vaulted ceilings. The technology wasn't meant to stop the crime. It was meant to record everything, creating undeniable proof of the betrayal Camilla believed she had concealed. While her team worked, Zara tracked Tom's movements through the palace. His presence, once irrelevant, now glowed like a threat on every security feed. He lingered near the black transport crates, paced the service corridor twice, and spent several minutes outside the secondary vaults. He was nervous, far too nervous for someone attending an exhibition rehearsal, but the signs grew darker. A guard Zara trusted approached her, voice low. "Ma'am, night duty rosters were altered again. Camilla's people, they're taking over the entire vault sector. Benuversinkle de Bildes." Zara felt a cold spike of recognition. Camilla wasn't just preparing a swap, she was severing every safeguard Zara relied on. For a brief moment, the battle seemed to tilt. But Zara did not bend. If Camilla wanted a silent war, Zara would fight it in absolute silence. Buckingham Palace rarely slept, but tonight it twitched every hallway, humming with attention too controlled, too engineered. Zara felt it long before the alarms of instinct flared. Something in the air had shifted. Not just resistance, retaliation. Camilla had struck back. It began with an encrypted report Zara received from one of her loyal officers. 9 out of 12 night shift positions in the vault perimeter had been reassigned, all replaced with individuals personally vetted by the Queen Consort. A precision strike. A surgical removal of Zara's influence. Zara scanned the names, her pulse tightening. These weren't random staffers shuffled for convenience. These were people who, under Camilla's reign, had risen too quickly, too quietly. Zara knew what this meant. The Queen Consort wasn't hiding anymore. She was moving pieces on the board. And she wasn't done. As Zara tried to stabilize her dwindling assets, another message arrived from the logistics team. A delivery of specialty packing materials had been approved under Camilla's humanitarian exemption code. Crates, shock-absorbent foam, thermal-lined bags, not for a simple swap. This was material for a full-scale extraction. The plan had evolved from vanity to heist. If they succeeded, entire collections, some never displayed, some known only to a handful of historians, could vanish into the night, smuggled out beneath the guise of royal protocol. Zara felt an iron knot form under her ribs. She stood alone in a palace where half the staff no longer answered to the king, where the woman sitting beside the throne had twisted ceremonial privileges into weapons. But she refused to falter. With what remained of her trusted team, Zara retreated into a sealed briefing room. No electronics, no windows. Only stone walls older than the monarchy itself. She faced her officers, each one watching her with a mixture of fear and resolute faith. "We have one chance," she said, voice low but carrying the weight of command. "Camilla is accelerating. Tom will move soon. When he does, when the first artifact leaves its case, that is when we strike. No grand speeches, no guarantees. Just precision, purpose, resolve." Outside, the palace settled into a deceptively calm rhythm, disguising the blades hidden beneath its routines. Zara could feel Camilla tightening her net, but she wasn't running. She was waiting. Waiting for the exact second the Queen Consort crossed the final line, so she could destroy the entire scheme in one blow. Midnight descended like a veil of ice over Buckingham Palace. Not the gentle quiet of sleeping halls, but the unnatural stillness that precedes catastrophe. Zara felt it as she stepped into the covert monitoring room. Every breath of the palace, every flicker of shadow, seemed to brace for impact. On the surveillance grid, a single heat signature moved through the East Gallery. Tom Parker Bowles. His steps were shaky hesitation embedded in every shift of weight, but duty to his mother's ambition drove him onward. The black attire, the gloved hands, the key Camilla had pressed into his palm. Tom wasn't behaving like an invited guest. He was behaving like a man committing treason. Zara watched the sensors flare one by one as Tom approached the first display. A thin red line pulsed across the monitor pressure threshold breached. Then another, and another. He opened the case, removed the relic, placed it inside the black transport crate. Zara didn't move. She didn't speak. She simply observed the silent witness gathering the final pieces of truth. Then a second figure appeared. Camilla. She didn't enter the gallery. She stood outside the doorway, framed in the dim corridor light, her posture rigid, eyes fixed on the room where her son carried out her will. She wasn't supervising, she was commanding. Every shift of her chin, every subtle hand motion directed Tom's next step. The Queen Consort wasn't lurking in shadows anymore. She was orchestrating the crime in real time. And as if on cue, Zara detected motion along the west service route Camilla's extraction team, positioned perfectly. Ready to move the moment Tom sealed the crate. A coordinated heist at the heart of the monarchy. Zara exhaled slowly. This was the moment. She pressed the hidden control beneath her palm. Activate, she whispered. In an instant, her reserve unit, silent, precise, unseen, moved into formation. Doors locked, corridors sealed. The east gallery tightened like a tightening snare. Tom reached for the final relic. The gallery doors slammed open with the force of a verdict. Zara stepped inside, tall, unyielding, carved from resolve. Behind her, King Charles emerged in quiet authority, the weight of the crown shining through exhaustion. Tom froze. The relic fell from his hands with a crystalline clang. And outside the doorway, Camilla's expression shattered. From confidence, to fury, to fear. Zara didn't need to raise her voice. You were watched, she said softly. And now you are done. Together, officers, silence swallowed the gallery after the final relic struck the marble floor. A silence thick with shock, guilt, and the slow, crushing realization that the entire scheme, every whisper, every forged approval, every manipulated shift had just shattered before the eyes of the monarchy itself. Tom Parker Bowles collapsed first. His knees buckled beneath the weight of his own choices. Tears streaked down his face as he choked out a confession, fragmented, trembling, desperate. Zara didn't look away. She didn't interrupt. She simply stood as the immovable witness, the person who had carried the burden no one else could. But it was Camilla's fall that echoed loudest. The queen consort tried to surge forward, her voice a whip of authority. This is a misunderstanding. I was correcting history. King Charles raised a single hand. The world seemed to stop. His disappointment was harsher than any verbal reprimand. Zara watched Camilla's expression crumble not into remorse, but into dawning terror as a small recorder was placed on the table. Her own voice spilled from the speaker every order, every calculated threat, every line that unveiled her ambition with surgical clarity. There was no escape. In the hours that followed, the palace moved with the cold precision of an ancient machine designed to protect itself. Tom was quietly escorted away. Bags packed, passport revoked, sentence delivered with the quiet brutality only royalty could wield. Permanent exile. Camilla faced a fate even harsher. No prison cell, only irrelevance. Stripped of authority. Removed from every cultural committee. Barred from influencing the narrative of the crown ever again. A queen in title only reduced to a ghost among gilded halls. At dawn, the exhibition opened flawlessly. The crowds never knew how close they came to witnessing the greatest scandal since the Queen's funeral. They saw only the treasures of Elizabeth II, glowing behind pristine glass, untouched, unharmed, untainted. And in the shadows of the gallery, Zara stood alone before her grandmother's crown. She did not smile. She did not speak. But in the quiet reverence of that moment, the entire palace seemed to acknowledge the truth. She had saved the legacy of a queen. And she had done it without asking for a single ounce of credit. Thank you for reading. If you enjoyed this chapter and want more royal drama, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Your support keeps these stories alive. And trust me, the next revelation is already on its way.